Felicia.
And I am Giancarlo.
And this game is called
Quebec.
Quebec.
The beautiful province we live in.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, though, if you buy this game in this province, you're going to pay 15% tax. There's 15% tax on everything. Every day.
That's true.
So, a good thing to buy Quebec is actually the States. In Quebec, players are trying to build high-end building in a cluster while gaining victory points. In the box, you'll get the board with spaces to place the building in and victory point track around it, hand tiles, workers, victory markers, and pawns of different color for each player, blue discs to keep track of buildings which are available, special leader cards to be played in the advanced rules, event cards which change the dynamics of the game for each century, and finally, building tiles of different colors. Each color represents something. It can be religion, politics, economy, or entertainment. The game is played in 4 centuries, and at the end of the game, the player with the most points is the best architect in Quebec.
Here's how to set up. Give each player his colored hand, workers, and pawns. Place 1 pawn for each player on the 0 of the track. Each player now activates 3 workers by placing them on his hand tile. The other workers are passive workers. Randomly place all the buildings in their correct color spots. This will generate a different board during each game. For each century, choose 1 card at random from the events and place it face down, except for the first century. Place all the leaders on the side of the board. Finally, place a blue disc on all the first century buildings. You're now ready to play.
On your turn, you can do one of 4 actions. You can move your architect, which is your remaining pawn, to a new building of that century. You can contribute your active worker to a building being built. You can place one of your active workers into one of the 5 different locations of power, or you can choose a leader card which will give you special ability for that century. The first move everyone should make is to move your architect to a building. When you do this, it must have a blue disc on it. Remove the disc and place your architect there. This action also gives you 3 new active workers. The contribute action simply means that you can place workers from your hand to a building. The number on top of that color is how many you must place. Doing this gives you a free action which is described in the circle of that color. They are all shown on the back of the rulebook. At first, it will take a while to read them, but you get used to them after the first game. If you don't want to do anything, you can place a worker from your hand into one of the 5 areas of power, including the city. When a player wants to move his architect to another building, place all those workers into the power area of that building's color. Flip over the tile to the completed side and choose a new building which has a blue disc on it. This again will give you 3 workers. Also, depending on the number of contributions that building had, so in this example he had 3 contributions, that player will place a victory marker on that building with 3 stars on it. These will give you victory points at the end of the game. So those are the major actions you can do.
This century will go on until someone runs out of workers, or someone tries to move to a new building but there are no more blue discs to go to. This ends the century. At the end of each century, everyone will get some points. Here's how this works. Starting with the city, everyone gets victory points for the amount of workers there are of their color. The player with the most there will cascade half of those workers to the next field of power. Now, do the same for that field and so on until all 5 fields have been scored. Return all leader cards, flip the next event card, and place blue discs on second round buildings. At the end of the 4th century, do a regular scoring round, plus players will get 1 victory point for each worker on the board and in their hand. Also, if you have a cluster of buildings together, you gain victory points according to the number on each of those markers, plus victory points for each star on the buildings which are not in the cluster. The player with the most points wins and is the best architect in Quebec.
The game has a learning curve, but the mechanics are good, and after a few games you start enjoying all the different ways to play and win. There is good player interaction and you can really follow someone else's plans. The bonus actions you can do take a while to learn, but the summaries on the board becomes quite familiar after a while. The board is different each game, and the event cards and leaders add a whole new dynamic to each game. The scoring mechanic is nice, but there can be some steamrolling if players are not paying attention to other players. There's a lot of strategy and very little luck. It has nice artwork and good production quality. If you're into Euro-style game with strategy and cool mechanics, This one might be a nice one to add to your collection. We liked it a lot and we're giving it an 8 out of 10. Quebec rocks. 15% tax not included.